Well, good morning, everyone. Hopefully you all can hear me.
Sounds good.
Oh, good. Hi, Jim. Hi, Georgia. Hi, Maureen, Margaret, Ann, and Vanessa. Thanks, everyone, for coming on a Saturday morning. I know you all had big plans, probably a concert or a sporting event to go to.
Take the garbage out.
Yeah, all the amazing stuff. I actually ran into Ron. Good morning again, Ron, this morning. All right, so here we are. It's the June community meeting. There is no topic because I did 2 town halls this month. So this is really just an open forum for June. Anything you want to discuss or talk about, it's open. So I'll just go through some of the Zoom etiquette again. At the very bottom of your screen, you should see a little icon that says participants. If you click on that, it'll open up a window to the right, and it'll show you everybody that's in the meeting. And usually, right at the bottom of the list is a little icon that just says raise hand. If you want to ask a question, just click that icon, and then I can call on you. If that's not there and you can't find it, then just wave your hand madly at the camera, and we will get going. And then just keep yourself muted when you're not asking a question or we're not in dialogue, just so that there's not a lot of crosstalk or extraneous noise. And with that said, let's, I guess, get going here. Just keep admitting some more people. Morning, Roger, Pat, Andy. All right. So who's first? Georgia, go ahead. You can either unmute yourself or I can do it.
Yes, so Christian, since March, tell me, what have we done in the city to take advantage of having everybody at home? I've seen some road repair. Mm-hmm. Have there been other things going on?
I mean, so since city workers are essential, clearly some of our projects that were already slated or approved, you'll see work has been done, right? So some of the slurry sealing has been done on Harkness right now, and some other areas you're seeing prep work for street resurfacing. So down in Alta Vista Park, they were installing new lights for the baseball field. Anywhere we've had the opportunity to get a jump on some work, clearly we're trying to do that. But a lot of times things are still on a preset schedule based on either when the contractor's available or has everything gone through a full process at City Hall in terms of funding and putting it out there for businesses to bid, contractors to bid on projects. So I think we're doing as much as we can, and staff is trying to just maintain the city to the best of its ability. Is that?
Yes. Am I still on?
Yeah.
Is there anything in the near schedule that is kind of like a big project that you know of?
Like a big giant project? No.
No, not a big giant, but just like more than just maintenance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I would say the resurfacing streets is more than just maintenance. That's all going to be happening over the course of the summer and early fall, and then starting in probably July, the transit center will probably break ground. That's to the just directly to the east of the Target. Right. That was finally approved about a month ago. So that's a big project for the city. And then other than that, really it's anything it falls into our capital improvements, platform. Anything that's slated to happen in the summer will happen, based on, when they're scheduled. So otherwise, every other thing that is in there is either in one of a variety of different phases, design, bidding, engineering, you name it. So
The Del Amo Mall, is it on hold?
So Del Amo is in Torrance, but the Galleria Mall is.
The Galleria.
Yeah, they're still. The last I talked to their vice president there, which was back in March, right around as the COVID-19 thing was happening. They were kind of in the process of just reevaluating a lot of things, as they were shutting down, and they were trying to really look at what is a mall of the future look like. And these are conversations that I had with them in the past, but they have started to slowly reopen as well. And then their project is not set to break ground, I think, for another year. So there's a lot of preliminary work that they're going to be doing. And I think before we start to see anything going vertical, they'll start to be doing a lot of preliminary work underground. So as that comes, to fruition, I'll keep everybody updated. But right now, they haven't started anything at that location.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. All right, who's next? Okay, Margaret. You want? Okay.
Hi, Christian. I just have a quick question. I was just wondering if you got my email about the sidewalk by Jefferson School.
I did not. Did you send it to the city email address?
I did. Should I send it to the Gmail one?
Send it to the Gmail one, because that city email, for whatever reason, doesn't forward it over to me. And
okay.
And so it's supposed to have a bounce back that tells you, hey, I may not have gotten this. So yeah,
it doesn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
send it to the Gmail, and then I'll be able to take care of it.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, you're more than welcome.
That's it.
Okay. Go ahead, Roger. Do you need me to unmute you, or you? You got it. Okay.
I try to have the spacebar thing work, but
yeah.
That doesn't work when you have the chat window open. You just mentioned some major projects. I was wondering if you could summarize where the city is with capital improvement planning and also the budget. I missed the last couple city meetings. I know you've been working on budget packages to try to come up with a budget that works under the new COVID reality, and I haven't been able to get to every single city council meeting.
Totally.
So,
yeah,
just wondering, if you can summarize where we are.
Sure. So we did pass a budget at our third meeting in June, and it was an interesting night. This is one of the most. I think every budget so far has been either based on my motion in the past 6 budgets I've done, or was exactly my motion. But this was probably the most complicated budget I have ever had to deal with, and primarily it was because of what we're facing with the COVID-19. So we are anticipating about a $2 million shortfall in this fiscal year, which we don't close out until about November, and we were projecting an $8.9 million deficit for next year. So as you can imagine, it created an enormous amount of hard decisions for both staff and the council to make. What ultimately ended up happening was Councilwoman MD and I worked together on this budget, and I am trying to look at this, even though I took a really conservative approach. I'm trying to look at this as a one-time event, and not an ongoing event. And a lot of the recommendations that were coming from staff were to treat any cuts we were making as ongoing. And what that means is ongoing means it just becomes a part of the normal budget, and it's a year, it continues year after year after year. One-time monies or budget changes are just a one-time effect on the budget. And so our approach, based on listening to our colleagues, and also just checking in with ourselves and talking with the different department heads over the course of 4 weeks, was how do we try to see if this is a one-time event that really takes us through, next spring, right? And so a lot of the positions that were potentially going to be put on hold or cut. We did have to let go, unfortunately, of 2 employees, but thank God it was only 2. But in a lot of cases, we were actually going to just, but positions that were not filled, we were just going to say we're going to cut those out of the budget. And so in specific cases like Harbor Patrol, Roger, which I know you've been concerned about, we said let's just keep things as is right now. Now, what that means is, and it's not necessarily something that I like to do, it means that we kind of have to deficit spend. Now, we are required to have a balanced budget, but when I say deficit spend is that, we don't have identified monies to cover that in an ongoing capacity in the future. So what we did was, with the vast majority of positions that we were potentially going to cut, that were unfilled or becoming vacant, we decided to just make it one time. We're not gonna. We decided not to cut those. In a couple cases, especially as it relates to public works, there was 2 important positions in public works that were going to be cut, and we actually pulled some money out of a fund that Councilwoman MD and I created a few years ago called the Major Facilities Reconstruction Fund, and I can go into that in a little bit, to cover those 2 positions, because what they really do is take care of our parks and our medians and the triangles in the neighborhoods, and I know that residents truly value those things being taken care of. So we made sure to include monies in there so that those positions could be filled or refilled because one of the individuals was retiring. So as it goes to the capital side of things, we did still approve a fairly robust capital plan for the next 5 years. And so I'm trying to think if there was anything. There really weren't any major changes within the capital program. So if you have any specific questions, I can try to get into that, and I can always just lean down and grab my CIP or budget book to answer any questions that are not coming up the top of my head. So feel free to elaborate, Roger, if there's anything specific you're thinking of.
Well, what's the best way to see what the final budget is, or how the decision packages came out? Is it just
sure.
The minutes of that last meeting, or?
Yeah. You there should be. So typically on the page, which was in my May email to you guys for the May meeting where we discussed budget, the link there was at that point to the proposed budget. That on the website should get changed into the approved budget. I don't know if they've done it yet, but that's where you'll be able to see it. The minutes for that meeting haven't come out yet, and anybody who wants, I'm happy to send you like the finalized budget motion, that was approved. I can send you mine and then try to piece together some of the changes that were made to it.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Was there any, other than the decision packages, was there any additional, scrutiny of the police or public safety budget?
So I think what you'll see is, reflected in the decision packages was, we put a one-time hold on vacancies there. So it's kind of like a hiring freeze, if you will. So that was, I think, 5 positions. We did change the leadership structure, which we had done last year as a part of a pilot project, but now we're going to have 3 captains because a lot of our policing efforts are for special services, which kind of goes to that conversation that you're hearing a lot out there right now. Police are doing a lot of things above and beyond their normal, what you would consider policing activities. So, and the special services captain in that division is what tends to handle like our homeless outreach, and our community outreach, school outreach. So that is a change within the structure of the environment, and they moved things around within their department budget to be able to accommodate that.
So, last question or last topic.
Yeah.
Thanks for the time, everybody. I really appreciate you running the public forum last month. That was really great. Thanks for doing that. But I'm wondering, what the follow-up from it is. I think our police department and public safety are doing great stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of disappointed it's still in an 80-page document 4 layers down on the city website. There is a trending topic on the section on the city website, and if nothing else, it would be nice to see some of this stuff there.
Yeah, well, you're talking about
what else we could do.
You're talking about the police transparency page on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this conversation is not going away. I'm going to be holding another town hall in early July, which will be a follow-up to that one. I think the follow-up really is going to be more of a focus on racism in general, not necessarily policing, because a lot of people that attended that event were really interested in kind of getting deeper into the systemic issues. And so I think that at least I'm going to keep trying to do these town halls, and I'm sure, we will have Chief Kaufman back, and the dialogue is going to continue, both, at the community level, and then from his perspective, I would also venture to say at the council level. So, stay tuned. It's definitely not going away, the topic or the conversation, in my opinion.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Okay. Who's next? Okay, Jim, go ahead.
You mentioned the project for the Galleria, and I'm wondering if you know any sort of broad scope notions about how they're going to handle operating during the construction. Are they closing entirely, or are they going to just be partly closed, or do you know how they're going to handle that?
No, I have no idea what their plans are. So, but I can make a guess, right? The existing structure as it is, I'm going to make some assumptions that it will remain open and functional during construction. How they choose to do that, I have no idea, because clearly the parking lot on the east side of that structure, right, that's going to be totally redone. Mm-hmm. So at some point, that you're not going to be able to park there, and that's going to be a construction zone. So my guess is that they may do it in a phased approach. Since the parking structure on the backside, right, by the movie theaters is still going to be there, I would assume they're going to try to funnel most of their parking into that back side. But no, I don't have any idea. And I guess once they start, breaking ground or getting closer to that phase of breaking ground, they're going to be in communication with our community development department, and they will have a plan. And then I'm sure they'll actually be communicating that plan out to the community, so that people aren't just staying away. They've still got to make it work somehow. So, but I don't think we're at that phase yet where they know. Maybe they know, but they haven't shared it with us. So,
great, thanks.
Oh, you're more than welcome. No, don't be shy, folks. Otherwise, this will be. Go ahead, Kelly.
The COVID-19.
Yes.
A couple of questions.
Sure.
It's already been proven that a lot of the virus in New York was spread by their metro station. Mm-hmm. And COVID will not go away. It's here to stay. So I don't know why our politicians, when they're asking about people wearing masks, don't, two things, remind them it's temporary. The masks are temporary till maybe there's a vaccine. And B, you wear a mask to kind of think of the seniors. Mm-hmm. We're all getting in that group. So people rioting, protesting, not wanting to wear a mask. Those are the two things. It's temporary, and you wear it to think of others. So, but the metro station that's been approved and all the others, all the evidence shows that COVID-19 was spread by those metro. Right now, I've looked at stats. The buses are running empty. The trains are running empty because people are afraid they're going to get the COVID-19. It will never leave. It will always be here. There will always be, you can't get a whole population to wear masks. There will always be somebody who doesn't, and that will be the carrier. So when somebody takes it off, somebody else will get it. That's just human nature. So why are they putting all this money? I know high-speed rail just got, $2.4 billion by the California state legislators.
I'm not aware of that, but...
Huh?
I'm not aware of that, but...
Yeah. So I don't know how much of the high-speed rail money, the $2.4 billion, train to nowhere, will be dumped into this metro that will be a possible hotspot for the virus.
Okay. Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think people wearing masks is just a responsible. You're not doing it necessarily for yourself. You're doing it for others. So I wish more people would take on that perspective. But you can't force people to, as you mentioned. This isn't going away, and so a lot of the precautions that have been recommended to us will need to kind of become what I've been saying is our new normal. From the transportation and metro perspective, ridership is down. A lot. And I think there's definitely fear around that. We are required, regardless, to maintain and clean our buses and our benches, and at a extremely heightened rate than we ever had before. We had actually gotten some grant funding to help pay for that, and then some of my colleagues didn't want to accept that and they wanted to put it elsewhere. But the simple fact of the matter is we still have to clean those buses, even if ridership is down, right? Because there's still going to be people using it. The boondoggle train, I don't know anything about new monies being apportioned to that. I know some people are still talking about it's important to have high-speed rail connection throughout the state, but where that's going and when it's going to happen, I don't have any understanding of. So I think what your initial point is coming down to, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that the messaging has just been a little bit wonky. And my wife, who's an ER physician, and I talk about this all the time, I think there's a lot of mixed messaging. And so we're telling people, hey, you can go back out and eat at a restaurant, but we also want you to wear a mask and maintain social distancing. And so those are not really in sync messages to people. If there's one place where you probably have a higher potential of...
Nothing too in sync.
I'm going to mute you, Jim, just in case. But if there's one... area where you probably are more apt to catch the virus is in close proximity to others who are eating, talking, whatever. So I don't know if just plexiglass and different air circulation is going to help in those areas. So I think I said this to somebody the other day on the phone who called me with some concerns. We're all trying to figure it out at every level of government, right? So our staff, us as local electeds, county electeds, state electeds, Department of Public Health, everybody's trying to do their best. And in some cases, we, in my opinion, probably are reopening a little bit too fast. But at the same time, people have concerns about the economy. Those are extremely valid concerns. But again, we see numbers rising as we're reopening, and so we're kind of caught in this weird space. And at the end of the day, it comes back to what you said. I think if we all just take on a certain amount of personal responsibility, we wear our masks and we do the best that we can, to think about other people, not just about ourselves and our own inconveniences, because the simple fact of the matter is we are all inconvenienced in a sense by this, then hopefully we can stem the tide, but we will just have to see what happens. So I see you, Pat. Just I'll get to you. There's a few others ahead of you. Does that any other follow-up, Kelly, or?
It's too much. Maybe later.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to Vanessa, Jim, and then Pat, and then Ron.
Hi. Thanks for the opportunity. This is Vanessa Poster. I'm on the Beach Cities Health District Board. And I was also on the call yesterday for elected officials with LA County. And Christian's absolutely right. The numbers are spiking in LA County. And we, as individuals, that's the only thing we can do. 6 feet away, wear masks, stay outside. Indoors is more risky. And one of the things I've been thinking is, if you were infected, you would be called by somebody who's doing contact tracing. Would you be able to tell them everything you've done in the 48 hours before you started feeling any symptoms?
No.
Everybody you've interacted with, every place you've been. So you need to start thinking about, if I'm infected right now, who have I interacted with? And that's the personal responsibility we need to take, is that if we become infected somehow, we need to be able to inform everyone we have potentially infected. And we need to live our lives that way, knowing all of those interactions are potential infections, and decide what interactions we are willing to take with that in mind. And keep the messaging going. It's out there. It is not going away. Wear masks, 6 feet away. Please keep washing your hands. Remember, in the beginning, we were all so adamant about how we were washing our hands. We need to relearn that every day and keep doing it. So thanks.
But that's all you can do.
It's all you can do right now.
That's all you can do, because people are rioting. They're protesting. They're not taking personal responsibility. They're bringing it back. They're infecting their family. You'll never stop human development, human behavior. You could just do the best you can. And the people that are getting older, we are the ones that really going to have to wear the mask more than them. And it's going to be part of life, because back in Wuhan, they're back to the wet markets, and it's getting spikes, but because of airplane travel, it will get here. Now you can walk around and put those heat things on your forehead, but you don't know, or even take a test, but you don't know if my test comes back negative. I'll go outside to Walmart or Costco, and God knows what I can get there. I haven't gotten anything because I wear a mask and wash my hands, because I myself have personal responsibility, and I want to get back together with my friends that are my age and older.
I think another thing that's really important to recognize are the mental health impacts here. And
yes.
We can see
suicides. This has to stop.
And just the anxiety and the stress, and to, in as much as we can, connect with people, talk to people, get help. And the health district has our helpline. If anyone needs any kind of social service referral, just call the health district. We have people on 7 days a week to provide food, social service referrals, all of that, because we are all very frustrated, and this is our reality, and somehow we need to learn to accept it. But this is the new reality.
Yeah, and if anybody missed the town hall last week with, or was it 2 weeks ago, with Dr. Joseph Lee, we actually discussed that. We discussed mental health in this kind of COVID environment. And so that's online. It's on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and on my website. Feel free to go and watch it. But this is having impacts. It's having impacts on kids and families, and these are all. I just think it's probably best for us to just keep talking about it and keep dialoguing, and again, going back to the personal responsibility aspect, keep talking with your friends and your family, and because I think it's easy for us to get frustrated and feel like I'm done with this. I'm ready to be done with this. But at the same time, it's not done with us. And at the end of the day, if it's not COVID-19, it's the flu or it's the common cold. So really, a lot of, the things we're talking about, just changing our behaviors and best practices for the way we take care of ourselves, will have long-lasting impacts on whether or not we stay healthy or not. When I was a singer-songwriter touring the country for 2 years straight, I never once got sick, and I was in a different city every night, or in a different room, or a different venue, or whatnot. When we started having kids, suddenly, especially as they, were more and more socialized and stuff, I started getting sick all the time. So community spread is easy for just about anything. And in this case, this is just serious, especially for people, from probably we're seeing the 30s all the way up to those who are immunocompromised, having serious issues. So
one of the studies has shown that the coexisting factors are really important. And as healthy as you can be, reducing obesity, eating well, staying healthy, active, all of those things reduce the comorbidities that increase the risk factors. So that's one thing we can do is eat healthy, exercise, stay as healthy as possible in order to prevent those comorbidities.
Have you noticed, one more question, I'm sorry. Have you noticed there's nobody with colds out there? At this time, we would normally have a summer cold. And a cold is a virus. Not like COVID, but they're both viruses. Now, I love to go out and people watch. We all do. But there's nobody with colds out there.
Well, not that we know of. I mean,
there isn't.
I don't. Well, my daughter, who has been hyper vigilant, and I mean, we haven't been going anywhere.
I go everywhere.
Yeah,
with a mask.
Yeah, I mean, we walk in the neighborhood, but we're not really out and about doing anything. I'm the only one who goes food shopping, but my daughter caught a cold a couple weeks ago. I have no idea where she got it, how she got it, but and we're being hyper vigilant, so it does happen.
Did you see the squash? The Syrian squash?
All right, so Kelly, I'm just gonna. We can always come back to this. I'll just move on. So Jim, go ahead.
Hi, this is Mrs. Jim. So we don't have any pets at home. Yeah. But there's so many illegal fireworks going on. I mean, every night, late at night till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And, all my neighbors who have pets, they're telling me that their dogs, they have to give them anxiety pills and that. And it just seems like nothing is being done about it. Nobody cares. And it's very frustrating. And getting worse for me. It's that, the rule of law is just out the window.
So it's an incredibly valid point. I think since Memorial Day, right, people have just been kind of going crazy, and I hear it every night. And it's not actually just here in Redondo Beach, by the way. I was chairing. It's all over the country, and I was chairing our South Bay City Council of Governments meeting on Thursday night, and we actually discussed this because all the local cities are experiencing the same issue. There's an uptick in just people shooting off fireworks. So it's not that we're not doing anything, because people are reporting it, and I want to explain why, because this is it's a tricky thing. The police have to actually see you using it to be able to do something about it, right? And so what ends up happening, right, is somebody shoots off their firework, and they get a call, and then they'll go out looking in the general area, but they don't necessarily know where it was or where it's come, So they look around. This is what we on the 4th of July. It's a little bit easier because they are actually they're sometimes out, especially if we're not having a fireworks show. They're out patrolling, and they're looking for community groups that are gathering and doing it in the street. And last year was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. The year we didn't have fireworks.
Whatever.
There was a year we didn't have fireworks, and we actually had an enormous amount of citations written. because we didn't have all the cops down in South Redondo to deal with crowd control and all that. They were actually able in force to go around the neighborhoods, and even in District 3 we had like 5 citations, you know. So I think what's happening right now is, and you know, I haven't heard any like right around my house, but I hear just the distant booms, you know, happening throughout the night.
Yeah. Well, I saw them on Spire.
Yeah. So, and did you call PD?
I did,
Okay.
and you would think that if the police are getting enough calls, then they'll have an idea of what areas they're being let off in.
Yeah.
Because I should think that it's mostly the same people. I mean, generally the same people that are letting them off.
Yeah.
And you just think that if they get enough calls, then the police know where to hang out.
I think so. To your point, and I'll have to ask Chief Kaufman and, you know, some of our captains about this. You're right. I think if they continue getting calls from like the same, say, block radius, you know, then that gives them an idea, and it's happening every night consistently. That's super helpful for them, right, to narrow down where they should be. It is happening over an extended, you know, it's happening from like 8 to like 1, like you said, sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if it's consistent, you know, in these particular areas. The council member from Gardena in our COG meeting said that they were actually asking their city attorney to look into if they could use drones to try to help, you know, see from above where is it happening, you know, to try to isolate it. Now, we do have a drone program here in Redondo Beach. Usually it's typically only used during a specific call for service, right? We don't just have drones flying around all the time. So I told the councilman from Gardena that when their city attorney got back to them on that, you know, please share it with the body, because that would be an interesting way to maybe proactively look for things that are happening and identify specifically where they're coming from. Now, again, I don't know if that would still fall under like legally what the police, like, does that count as we were able to see exactly where it went off and so we can hold those people to account? I'm not sure. But I will try to, you know, I'll talk with PD about it and then see if there's any information, and if so, I'll share it online.
Yeah, thanks. It's just getting to the point, Christian, where I'm thinking, well, let me see, what kind of laws can I go out and break and get away with?
Yeah, but see, Lynette, you're a good person, and I know you won't do that. Even as frustrated as you get.
But I need to think of these things because it helps me get out the frustration.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Christian.
You're more than welcome. All right, so Pat and then Ron. I'm going to unmute you, Pat, or I'm going to ask you to unmute. You're still muted, sir.
Oh.
There you go.
Hey, yeah, just one thing about drones, using drones to, you know, to strike back against fireworks. You know, you could use, if you had 3 drones, you could triangulate, which means you could actually pinpoint the spot. I don't know if drones are equipped, though, with listening devices, or, you know, you could use video, you know. There's also, and I think, well, there isn't a program. I haven't heard of a program, but if you had an app for your phone that was just listening, and there's more people that, you know, could pick it up, they could probably pinpoint where that sound was coming from. But anyways, yeah, and the fireworks, yeah, they happen at all times in the evening. Anyways, there's a couple things I wanted to touch upon was, first of all, lack of participation on light rail and buses. To my knowledge, most businesses still remain closed. You know, I mean, before this, like 90% of our population would leave Redondo Beach to go to work. I don't know if they were taking advantage of buses or lights, rail, or whatever to get there. But anyways, even in New York, that was one of the main things that they shut down because nobody can go to work. People were shut down. One the thing that's interesting about COVID-19 to me is that 3 months ago California was number 5. 2 months ago we were number 3, and now we're number 2 in the nation as far as like confirmed cases, and so we never flattened the first curve. I do understand that Redondo Beach has a porous border, and so that some of the people that are coming down to the beach, not wearing masks, not social distancing, might not be from here. I totally get that. And stuff like that. I do think, though, that since I haven't seen any data from the hospitals regarding underage, kids in their, people in their 30s or 40s, their 20s or 30s being admitted to the hospital. But anyways, I haven't seen any spike in those things. So, I don't know if, what I'm trying to say is like, we can't really pinpoint it to like protests or whatever, I think it's what we're probably seeing, in these spikes. In my thing is that our numbers for COVID, like confirmed cases, deaths, and so on and so forth, are way under. And what we're probably seeing now is we're probably not experiencing spikes. What we're seeing is actual data coming forth. Because I'm of the opinion that the confirmed cases are actually a lot more than what they are being represented. People who have COVID are coping with COVID. Some people are not going to the hospital, or not being tested, so on and so forth. Let's see. What was the other thing? Anyways, I just thought it was a little kind of, like there's a lot of people that, don't want to see light rail coming to Redondo or North Redondo or whatever. I get that. But I think that's kind of unfair to make those particular things, saying that was the cause. One thing that we do know from New York is New York was given some false information from the beginning. They were told that the virus was coming from China when it was actually coming from Europe. Okay, so they did not prepare for people coming from Europe to spread the disease of COVID to New York. That's why they were caught off guard. Okay, and so also another thing about Wuhan, just a quick thing. Actually, I was really impressed with one thing, that province, they only had 400 deaths, and they shut that place down like real quick. Bam! They all started wearing masks. They knew the drill.
I don't know if the numbers coming out of Wuhan are
No, yeah. Well, the Wuhan province is in a bigger section, But I understand. Yeah. Well, we were getting proper data, though. We were at one time getting the proper data, and it doesn't mean that those numbers are actually false, because according to statistics, you can actually use those as comparisons with other countries. But they did shut it down like rather quickly in the thing. But anyways, whatever. Yeah. So we were getting CDC statistics from China, but that operation got closed down. So, anyways. But anyways, I'll get off my thing. Thank you very much. Your town halls were just absolutely wonderful. It was really, really, really interesting and stuff like that. I think that is an important conversation to have, so on and so forth. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. All right, Ron.
Hi. Two things. One, sent you a question on the chat and I got disconnected, so I don't know if you actually answered the question about that bulb out that's over on Carmelita and Steinhardt. It looks like it's done.
Yeah,
it's the extent of it.
Yeah, it's a temporary one, but it is installed.
Okay. My other concern, as you know, I walk the neighborhoods a lot, and I see things that are out on people's houses, such as flags and more than I usually see, like on Memorial Day or 4th of July. I've been seeing different kinds of flags out, and I was wondering, has the council or the city talked about doing some sort of community building activity, since we're all sheltering at home, such as encouraging on one particular day to put out a flag, whether it be any flag, American, California. I've seen Brazil out there. I've seen those little, welcome kind of flags. Just something that we can say as a community, thank you. We appreciate the patience. We're being very supportive. Or even lawn signs. There's a lot of graduation lawn signs, but maybe some lawn signs that say, something that says, as a community, we appreciate what's going on and we are all working together to make it a safer community. So I'm hoping that there's something that can be done to build a community. When the Beach Cities Health District sent out their newsletter, they talked about Hermosa Beach, they talked about Manhattan Beach, nothing about Redondo. The updates that we've been getting from the city have been a lot less frequent than coming from the other neighboring cities. So we're losing a good opportunity to just bring the community together as a whole.
Sure. So I think that's a valid comment. No, we're not doing anything at the city level to build morale or create something that people would put flags out or whatnot. I think anybody can start that movement. It doesn't necessarily need to be the city that does that. And quite frankly, I think the city's just trying to figure out how to manage all the things that are coming at it during this time. So as we're cutting back and dealing with an $8.9 million deficit, we're not trying to take on any additional things that may pull people's time and energy away from things that actually need to get done. And I'm not, in no way am I saying that invalidates the idea. I'm just saying that sounds like something the community can rally to do without the city being the city staff being the lead on that. You're right. Manhattan Beach and El Segundo, they are continually putting out updates on a daily basis. But they are primarily just really regurgitating the updates from county. So our city, because we don't have a forward-facing public relations person to just kind of do that kind of stuff, we are not putting that out. Clearly, the county still has a daily, with the exception of maybe on Tuesday when they have their supervisor meetings, they're putting out daily reports. The state, is still doing daily briefings. And so since most of our local orders are in line with the county or the state at this point, we are only doing an update when there is something completely germane and specific to Redondo Beach. If there is an aspect of the order that is only germane to Redondo, it's not dictated by county or state, that's when we'll update it and let people know, hey, this has changed. If there's a major county order that happens, then we are doing the updates then. So anytime the county, or at least we're supposed to be, anytime the county makes a change, reopening, whatnot, that's also supposed to go out and be put up on our website as well. Otherwise, we're not, and I get the same things from Manhattan Beach, but I've stopped reading them because I'm already paying attention to what the county's saying earlier in the day. So I hear what you're saying. Even like myself, I've stopped doing COVID updates on a daily basis because it's just not. I don't want to be in people's inboxes or spamming them on social media, especially if they're already following and getting that information from someplace else, unless there's something really transformational or big that's happening. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jim and Lynette, your hand is still raised, but I'm assuming that's from before. So let's go to Holly. And Holly, there you go. Just unmute yourself. Perfect.
Yes, I can hear this meeting fine, and I can hear all the meetings that I ever want to go to fine, except for the Redondo Beach City Council and any Redondo Beach commissions. And I can't get them, and but nobody can participate. You can't ask questions. Somebody talked about community spirit and engaging people. When you shut people out of all your meetings, you're not going to get them very engaged. When I say you, I mean you as the city council, not you as you're doing right now, because you are engaging. But I want to know, when is the city going to make it so that you can at least have a dial-in line and speak?
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's my question.
So our very first virtual meeting, as you probably know, we got Zoom bombed, right? People screaming racial epitaphs, people playing the Shark Baby song or whatnot, and then we kind of shut things down, and we're only doing public comment via email, and then the city clerk has been reading those comments to the council during the meetings. We also then created an e-comment platform so that people could comment during the meetings electronically. That'll stay in place regardless of whether, when we eventually get back into chambers. And those comments have also been read during meetings. Myself and a handful of my colleagues have expressed that we would like to get public participation in. This is not under the purview of the council; it's under the purview of the city clerk, and I don't know why there was a reluctance to try to figure out ways to make it work. The mayor and myself, Councilmember Lowenstein, we had attended a water board meeting where they were letting people in, and they had a system set up, and so they were able to participate, in Zoom and be a part of that, just in a virtual way. To answer your question, Holly, that's supposed to start on July 7th at our next meeting, and hopefully, if nothing goes crazy, that will be how we function on a go forward basis. How the city clerk and the IT department manage that, I'm not sure. Different cities have been doing it in different ways, and they've all been experiencing different programs. I don't think there's any one model out there that is like working ideally right now. So again, as I said earlier in the meeting, I think before you joined on, everybody's trying to just figure out how do we function in this new environment. But starting July 7th, we should be able to have public comment kind of in the way we're having this interaction here on Zoom, and a little bit more like what you're used to at a town hall or a city council meeting.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Gar.
Hi, Kristen. I just wanted to comment on the intersection at 182nd Street and Inglewood Ave. The new turn restrictions are largely being ignored.
Okay.
And we're having a lot of issues with the turnaround traffic on 182nd Place. Also, one of our neighbors, she was trying to turn into her driveway on 182nd Street. Somebody tried to pass her on the right, very closely hit her. So I don't know if we get more enforcement there. I know we're supposed to have a survey coming up after 6 months of the restrictions. They haven't seen any of that yet. So I'm just wondering if we could, maybe get a little bit of enforcement over there. I know there's bigger things going on in the city right now, but that's a comment I have.
Okay, I'll request spot enforcement at the intersection. And Jenny called me, and I hadn't been able to call her back just due to some family stuff going on. So I will get in touch with her today. her situation where somebody tried to pass her on the right is clearly somebody who is an idiot driving, because who would do that? Like, it doesn't make any sense on a single lane road. So, but I will call her and I'll ask PD to do spot enforcement. And Guard, just to be specific, the turning restriction, you're saying during the hours of the turning restrictions, right? Monday through Friday? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Yeah, it's about every cycle light that I see, there's someone trying to make that illegal left turn almost every time.
Okay.
And there's a lot of horn honking, some people, flip the other people off. It's, crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's been, that we've had those signs up now for about 6 months, right? So,
yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, you would hope that most people now would know what's going on. I'm sure there's going to be the occasional person who is not looking at signs and is not a regular commuter in that direction that doesn't know. But that it's still no excuse. If it's happening that much, then yeah, we'll need to do something else. So, thank you for bringing it up.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Also, while I got you, can you give me an update on the Green Line extension? I'm having a hard time getting any kind of information from Metro. I saw that they started the DEIR, but we don't know anything about it. There's no community meetings. They're really not telling me anything what's going on. So do you know anything?
I don't know anything more than you right now. The last person that asked me about it, I told them to contact Mark Dirkling at Metro directly, because he's our local South Bay person. The last information that I had been given from him was that it was on hold right now. And so I don't know when they're starting up. They haven't released any information to both the COG or the cities in this area with updated information about what the timeline is, when are things going to start, when are they going to be doing the community outreach. They won't officially start the DEIR until they start doing that community outreach. And I think they'd have a lot of problems if they tried to do that without undertaking that aspect. So.
Okay, very good. And I also saw on the website they've renamed Alternative 3 to Alternative 2 now. So I don't know if there's any confusion among people trying to make comments on it.
I don't know.
That was kind of interesting.
Did they? Because now they're saying there's just 2 alternatives. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I wasn't aware of that, but my guess is they're just trying to since they've taken it away from 4 alternatives down to 2, they're just trying to simplify it as on a go forward basis would be my guess.
Okay, very good. And do you know also if they're looking at
I see you, Kelly.
going down Hawthorne Boulevard in the elevated position?
That's supposed to be that was one of our big requests, both from the city of Redondo Beach, myself, and then I had the COG also make that same request. So I would be shocked if that was not studied appropriately as part of it.
Oh, very good. Thanks, Kristen.
You're more than welcome. Okay, Kelly.
A third of if they get boring to dig a tunnel, the price will be a third for what they have now. Why they're not getting boring is completely illogical. Boring already successfully dug tunnels up north for a fraction of the cost of what Metro can do. Why isn't boring on the table? We would save California a ton of money. This is outrageous that they're not letting boring dig a tunnel underneath Hawthorne. It could pop up and then the parking could be where they're at now. But what they need to do is make tunnels a third of the cost. You know how much money California could be saving by having boring do their thing, and they're successful for a fraction of the cost. This is absurd that Metro is doing what they have to do without having boring being the top of the line.
So So first of all, Kelly, I don't know that that's not something Metro is exploring already because, one, boring is continually evolving their whole technology for boring, tunneling, right? I don't know right now that the size of the tunnels they're creating are not the same size as ones for light rail or or the rail lines yet. They are smaller tunnels, but the most recent machine they've created to do their work is one that they've created based on their own engineers. And the last time I did a tour there. So I anticipate, because Metro has created a relationship with boring to specifically do, and it's not for a rail system, it's for the boring model, but a connection from the Hollywood area to Dodger Stadium. And I don't know when that's happening, but that is, so there is a relationship that is fomenting between boring and Metro. To your point, and I completely agree with it, if boring is able to tunnel for a fraction of current tunneling costs, and they are continually improving their process and then their machines, it would lead me to believe that future projects, like the Green Line extension, for example, could very well be done in a more cost-effective way and underground and solve a lot of the environmental issues that many people are concerned about. Whether it's going through yards in Lawndale where the existing right-of-way is, or it's even going down Hawthorne Boulevard. That would make an enormous difference. Now, the Green Line project is not even set to happen for, it would, ideally, in an ideal world, it would be done by 2028, which means it wouldn't even start construction until 2024. But I don't know that they're not already having those conversations, so I can't comment. I'm not on the Metro board, and I'm not privy to that information. But I agree, and I would expect that since they're already in conversation with them related to the Dodger Stadium tunnel project, that they very well could be talking about using them as a vendor for future rail projects. Heck, if they're going to do that Sepulveda Pass one, which goes from the that would make an immense amount of sense. So clearly, the tech is changing and evolving, and they're trying to figure out how can they bore faster and cheaper. And I think ideally anybody would be using that technology if it's going to keep the costs down. So nobody in their right mind wants to be spending billions of dollars on infrastructure that we should have, And anytime you visit a European city and you see their underground and stuff, you just you wonder why we can't have the same here. So thank you for the comment. All right, anybody else? Go ahead, Georgia.
Yeah, two questions.
Yes.
One is, where are we with the timeline of AES? And my second question is, apart from this loss of revenue, what are your major immediate concerns for the city? Okay.
So let's start with AES. I just want to understand specifically your question, though. When you say what are the timelines for AES, are you talking about operations of the power plant, or are you talking about future things that happen on that property? I just want to understand more clearly.
Right. Well, the Coastal Commission, of course, we've had all of these appeals and these decisions, and I haven't kept up with where we are in terms of shutting down the plant, dismantling the plant, okay, and then moving on.
Got it. So the plant is supposed to, according to state regulations, its last day of operation should be December 31st of this year. Now, there is a push by AES and the new property owner to extend the plant an additional 3 years. Operations of the plant. The California Public Utility Commissions has ruled that we need additional, what you would call resource adequacy. We need additional plants that are available to create power in the event that that there just isn't enough power, in these future years. And they have all these formulas and numbers that show why we need it. What was very interesting with this ruling that came from the PUC was it only affected these coastal power plants in Southern California. And so what they were in effect saying was coastal power plants that were supposed to be retired at the end of this year would need to stay online for an additional 1 to 3 years to help with this shortfall, or what they are saying is a shortfall. And so they made that ruling, and then that ruling is now in front of what we call the State Water Board. And the reason why it's at that body is because they are the final ones that make a determination, actually, with regards to the once-through cooling process. That's why these plants are set to shut down at the end of the year. It's a 10-year-old ruling. And so they will make that determination. AES and the new property owner are petitioning super hard for a 3-year extension. We are, as a city, pushing back for no extension. The recommendation that State Water Board staff made was for a 1-year extension. And we have a variety of arguments before that body that have been made. My argument has been completely mathematical. And it is that we don't need the Redondo power plant to meet the resource adequacy that the numbers they're talking about are necessary. It would create an overabundance based on what the CPUC was recommending. So our recommendation, especially because there's a handful of different turbines and stuff there. They're among the most filthiest and poorly running out of all the coastal power plants in the state. So we'll see what happens. The meeting at the State Water Board was supposed to be in July. That did get pushed now to September. I don't know why, but so we won't have a better idea as to what's happening specifically with that until, I guess, September. The property, as I alluded to in my previous comments, has been sold. AES is no longer the owner of that land. They have sold it to an entity that's made up of like 16 LLCs. The primary owner is the one you've seen maybe in the papers listed, Mr. Postelnikov. What happens after, like right now, their focus is on getting it to extend, and he's doing a lease back scenario with AES. So AES is like operating and leasing from him to be able to operate. And if they were to get extended, that's how they would function. What's going on with his plans for the property? That's also up in the air. We really haven't heard anything. That it seems like their main focus has been just to get the plant extended. So I don't know what's going on there. The city is, I can say the city clearly has been trying to work, and Mr. Postelnikov had offered to sell 25 acres of the land to the city. Now, we don't have the money to purchase that, so what we were doing was trying to effectuate state grant money and funds from other areas to do that. At this point in time, we've gotten almost $5 million in state grant money. Mr. Postelnikov rescinded that offer back in February, and then changed it around and kind of made it contingent on us getting any of that land on whether we supported the extension of the power plant. And not only that, they changed the parameters of it. At first it was just, hey, I'm willing to sell you this land, and if you can buy it, great. Now the offer was kind of predicated on, I'll sell it to you not only if you support, but also it comes with a variety of strings attached. Including the fact that he could, at some point in the future, change where those 25 acres are. So it was really not a good deal for the city, and the city said, no, thank you. We would prefer to stay with our original agreement. So there's a lot of stuff that's just unfortunately up in the air right now as it goes to that property. I guess that probably comes as no surprise to people who have been following, what's going on at AES for many years. But to get to your second part of the question, this is I'm on that subcommittee, so this is something that's important to me. It has implications for a lot of things that I'd like to see happen. We're not only are we trying to focus on sorry, my live stream, I just hit my camera. Not only are we trying to focus on effectuating park and open space at that property, but I think we'd like to do something on the AES right away, going all the way up to Dominguez Park. And that kind of now is in also a little bit of a holding pattern, because what happens at the AES site has a direct effect on the power lines, right? Some of those power lines are taking power out of the power plant. Some are bringing power into a switching station right on the AES site. So ideally, I would like us to see a green belt that goes all the way up to Dominguez Park. That's, a long-term goal of mine and has been since I first got elected. Something that I am continuing to focus on, and we've talked about in previous meetings, is municipal broadband. Right now, as I've said, you have Spectrum and Frontier as your two options, and I would like the city to eventually offer that to residents and businesses. The very first step towards that happening is that we are connecting our city, along with the other 16 cities in the South Bay, to a fiber optic ring called the South Bay Fiber Network. It's something that the South Bay City Council of Governments, which I chair, we've been working on for 3 years, and it's actually going live in July or August. And so once that ring is connected to each of the cities, if they so desired, could decide that they want to make a investment into building that out. Now that's a ginormous investment. I don't want to make it sound like it's just something that we just easily do. I mean, you're talking about us trenching throughout the city and laying conduit, and it would be a big infrastructure project to do that. But I also think from a social equity standpoint, from just a infrastructure of the future standpoint for a modern city, it's important for us to own our own conduit throughout the city, whether it's smart streets or connection of traffic lights or public works, public safety. There's a whole variety of just city reasons that it would be important to have a network of gigabit broadband fiber running throughout our community. But to me, the most important one beyond that aspect would be to be able to offer that to residents and businesses at a lower cost than you currently get from Spectrum or Frontier. I think when you create more competition, it helps drive prices down, and I'm just constantly shocked by how much those companies are charging everyone for basic services, whether that's cable TV or even connecting to the internet. So we'll see what happens. I mean, that's a big idea, and would really require. I'm sure it would require either creative financing or bonding, but then when we start talking about that, we also have to think about that. We have other areas in the city that are in need. We really have been needing for many years to build a new police station. Our fire stations are also, old. City Hall is old, So one of the reasons, going back to something I alluded to earlier, Councilwoman MD and I created that Major Facilities Reconstruction Fund back in 2016, I think, because we really believe that if we're going to eventually ask the residents to do a bond measure for rebuilding, building infrastructure, that the city should be, kind of saving as well, right? We can't just put that out on the residents. The city has to be a part of that. And so we created that fund. But again, there are so many competing priorities and so many things that will need to happen over the coming years. And we just have to try to figure out how do we make all of that happen. So in my last 3 years here, I will be, spending as much time as possible trying to figure out how do we make it happen? Where do we find the monies? And I spend a lot of my time looking for monetary sources outside of the city. That's why I serve on, these regional bodies and state bodies. So we'll see. Aside from that, I'll there's clearly a ton of other things that I'm focused on.
That's good.
But yeah.
That's great,
okay.
Yeah. So then rolling back to AES, we're kind of waiting for a decision in September before we know the next step.
I think that decision from the State Water Board is definitely going to lend clarity to two things, right? One, the first and most important is, does the plant close down at the end of the year as it's supposed to, or does it remain operational? And then the decision related to that has then direct effects on what happens in the future to that site, to the Edison right away. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Oh, absolutely. All right, we got about 14 minutes. So Kelly, go ahead. Just unmute yourself.
A different question. I don't know if the health district lady is still on. Could be a question for her or for anybody. Pat in the past has asked about revenue for legal cannabis as a revenue for the city.
Yeah.
Okay, I can understand because it's legal for medical, for personal. How do they? I was doing research. How did they come across with regulations from 1972 in the height of that usage? Cannabis THC in a dosage was about 2 to 3%. In 2020 dosage, the THC in cannabis is about 20 to 30%. And how alcohol can have different effects on different people. You get sleepy, angry, whatever, crazy, silly. The same thing with cannabis. So if per dosage has gone from 2 to 3% from 1972 to now 20 to 30% per dosage, and studies have proven that high dosages of THC can, in some people, cause paranoia, psychosis, and schizophrenia for people that are susceptible to that. How do we deal with that as a society or a city? If a city regulates it, maybe they should re-regulate it as a dosage to a 1972 level, a 2 to 3% per dosage. Anything else would be illegal, because if we're getting this legality of cannabis throughout the United States and it's self-medicating, not from a doctor, and the dosages are on an average of 20 to 30%, especially with edibles out there, you're going to have a lot more paranoia, schizophrenia, and psychosis. I will send you the links to your email later on from the research I did. So if we do go down that path, the city, the United States, needs to regulate that each dosage go back to 1972 level.
Yeah, I think, we've all heard that, cannabis of today is not the cannabis of your parents' day. So what I would say is, that is not necessarily something that would be regulated at the local level. That, I think, as you see more of a move to allow cannabis in a variety of states, you're going to then see, depending on how federal government changes or not in November, you may see a continued move to also decriminalize cannabis and change the its rating on the drug. I forget what they call it, the drug scale, or it is right now a class 1 drug. So. With that said, I think what you're specifically asking for is something that's going to come either from the federal government or the state governments, as it would pertain to regulating. If you're selling it and you have retail establishments selling it and shipping it, do they start to regulate the potency of it? That's not something we would do at the local level, but what I would definitely do is write Assemblymember Marisucci, Senator Van Allen, and say that this is a concern you have, and that maybe it's something that the legislature might want to look into. Now, the after effects of Prop 64, they are still changing and massaging how that is adapted into our legal framework. The last time I saw our city attorney that was working on that, she was still wrapping her head around changes that are happening. Just to bring it local, we will. Part of my budget motion was to bring back. We had a cannabis task force that because if we're going to allow that to happen here in Redondo, in my mind, it always had to be an extremely thoughtful process. We have to consider public safety, public health, land use, and how we would allow that, if so desired, here in the city to be a commercial activity, and what would our limitations be on that. So the task force findings are supposed to be brought back to us by fall, and then hopefully we will we'll have more discussions about that in the fall winter months. So stay tuned. But as it relates to your main concern, I would definitely focus at the state level right now on sharing those. So you can send those articles to me, and I'd be happy to also pass them along to our state legislators as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Vanessa.
There we go. Sorry, I was muted. As a health district, the policy that we have in place right now is very concerned about youth and drug use. And we have received a grant from the federal government to do drug-free youth programs, which help us to create coalitions locally and do a lot of work to help youth not start using drugs and educating youth around drugs. So we take a position against having cannabis available locally. But again, it's not in our jurisdiction. Our work is prevention. And I'm really proud that we got this federal grant, and we're doing a lot of work in prevention.
And I think it should be noted that the health district, in concert with Redondo and I think also Manhattan and Hermosa, a lot of people talk about cannabis being a gateway, but to me the gateway is tobacco and alcohol. And so we are really trying to do a lot of work in those areas, especially as it relates to youth. And we've clearly become a smoke-free city. So there's more to do, but I thank Vanessa and the health district for always taking a proactive and preventative approach on anything that affects our youth.
You're welcome. And the other thing I want to say is I think that there is a use for medicinal cannabis. My husband, when he was dying, it was the only thing that gave him any comfort from the pain. So I think there is responsible medical use. But in terms of having it available locally, non-medicinally, we are, as a health district, are not in support of that.
Correct. All right. Any final questions here before we wrap it up? Yes, Pat. You have a question.
Hi.
Toilet paper.
Yes. The one thing that I was reading about. In the paper about this whole thing about, Nils Narentheim's thing, about the city not defending him anymore. But there seems to be a lot of confessions a lot of confusion. I was wondering, at any point, is this going to be agendized so people can talk about this, or?
Well, that's a closed session matter, so I am not aware of that becoming a discussion topic in open session at all. And it's really a private matter for Councilmember Narenheim, so I can't imagine why that would become an open session item.
Well, okay, the only reason that is there just seems to be a massive amount of misinformation going on right now. At least on social media in regards to this thing. So, I guess at some point we'll probably hear clarification, maybe from Mike Webb or so on, see what was going on there. Anyways, okay, thanks.
I don't know. I saw Mr. Webb had comments in the newspaper. I don't anticipate that he would comment beyond what he has already stated publicly. Again, because it's a closed session matter. So, Kelly?
Is Redondo Beach going to have their fireworks this year?
No fireworks this year. Most municipalities have canceled them. But going back to Lynette's question earlier, if you want to hear fireworks, just open your windows at night, and they are going on. You'll hear them, you may not see them. No, there won't be any show, and really. Aside from our budget woes, really the primary reason was we canceled it back when, as it relates to COVID, we're not allowing large groups to gather. And so it would be highly irresponsible of the city to have a fireworks show that would automatically draw people down into the harbor and beach areas in large droves. We can't say one thing and do another. So we're not going to be hosting.
Are you going to put that in the Beach Reporter so people know?
If it hasn't been already, I'm sure they will make. I would anticipate that they should be making those announcements. I'll make a mention of it to city staff to see if, or I'll send something out, maybe a press release just in case.
I knew we weren't doing it, so I've seen it somewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, then thank you everyone for coming this month. Stay tuned. Like I said, we'll do another. We'll keep doing these town halls, especially on race and anything else. And then on top of that, we will continue to do the monthly community meeting, and I'll come up with some topic for next month. So
thank you, Christian.
You're fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
You're more than welcome. Everybody have a great day. Wear your masks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.